I can't believe they're doing this all over again to the American people. And by this, I mean spending billions of dollars of taxpayer money on defense budgets that has more questions than it has answers. Now, one question that I have is, will it pay to invest in the stock market before this thing goes through, specifically for defense contractors like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, and even Northrop Grumman? And while it does include actions to protect us from the likes of China and Russia, you gotta think, the military spending has increased. So why does it feel like our national security has actually decreased? And was there even talk about Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and VA? I don't think so.
So Congress has passed a major must-pass defense authorization bill. This bill, it's almost $900 billion. Incredible, critical piece of legislation that Congress is getting done today before everyone goes home for Christmas. And look, a lot of this bill, it does have to do with the military, a 5.2% pay raise for service members, additional funding for Ukraine. But there are also a number of provisions in here that deal with other interests and other topics. One really big one is AI. We are seeing dozens of provisions in here as the Pentagon and the military really look to adopt this new technology. That includes trying to see if they can hold a competition to get someone who can identify watermarks on AI and AI-generated content so you can tell what's real, what's fake. And they're also basically sponsoring a program telling hackers, hey, come ahead, test our AI, see where our faults are. We want to make sure that we are putting out a really strong product when it comes to the AI models as well as cyber defense models.
Before we get any further, I want you guys to know that this bill is like 3,000 pages long. 3,000. And by the time this video comes out, you better believe that President Biden has already signed it. So here's my question, guys. Do you think it's part of the job of our government officials, I'm talking about people in Congress, the Senate, the White House, to read bills before they approve them and sign them into law? Or do they just approve them without even flipping a single page? Comment on one if you guys think that they actually do their jobs and actually read through every single provision to bills that go through. And comment on number 2 if you think that they don't even really read anything at all and are probably not even aware of some of the provisions that are in the defense bill. And while you guys do that, make sure to hit the like button for the video. It really does wonders for the YouTube algorithm. It also gets this message out to even more people. And while you're at it, consider being a part of this amazing community by subscribing to the channel. Appreciate that, guys. But you guys got to be wondering, what else is inside of this bill, huh? Notice the body language here at the start.
The House passed an $886 billion yearly defense bill Thursday, sending it to President Biden's desk. He's expected to sign it into law. The Defense Department's budget for 2024 will be 3% higher than 2023's. It includes a 5.2% raise for service members. The budget also includes $600 million for Ukraine security and gives a short-term extension to the controversial Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act.
Okay, that's just a few things included inside of this bill, but don't get me wrong, there's some stuff that may be needed, especially with our service members, given that recruitment for the military numbers, they're just not cutting it. However, and this is something that I'm not going to comment that much on, I just need you guys to know about it. So this bill secures assistance for the Ukraine all the way through the end of 2026, meaning that they're bound to get hundreds of millions of dollars from the United States until that time. It also means that it seems like America, or at least the White House, President Biden's administration, they think that this war it's probably going to go on about that long, huh? Now, I should also note that the term Ukraine itself was written down like 109 times in this bill, comparing it to Social Security that only popped up twice. Wow, I know that Social Security really doesn't have anything to do with the defense of this nation, but it's just amazing that they can be this loose with our money. Any thoughts on that, guys? Now, I know what you're probably thinking. $886 billion is way too high. And normally, I probably have a clever comeback or something here, but no, you're absolutely right. Because this budget dwarfs the budgets of any other country in the entire globe. I mean, just think back to 2022. You see how every other country, besides China, because they're the only other one that might be able to compare to us, but that's still a long way from what we're spending. But do you guys still see that huge difference? Now, you gotta ask, I mean, we're curious people, right? Why is the number so high? Well, when you have private companies that boost prices like nobody's business, stuff like this is bound to happen. So do any of you guys think that, we're being overcharged here? You see, I found a really interesting read from 1986. That's right, guys, almost 4 decades. So what's in this article? Well, it says that taxpayers have always been paying extra when it comes to our nation's defenses. In fact, it even cites the infamous Pentagon catalog, which shows just how much the federal government's actually paying for hardware that you and I also buy at the stores. You get a nut that's worth $2,043 for free. What a deal, huh? It cites a hammer that's being bought at $435 a piece, a $640 toilet seat, not the toilet, just the toilet seat, and even a $7,622 coffee maker. That's more expensive than a Keurig. Now, don't even get me started on this aluminum ladder because it's priced at $74,165. Now, I'm taking this thing with a grain of salt here, but given how inflated our budget is compared to other superpowers in the world, it makes you wonder that maybe, just maybe, it's possible that our taxpayer money is being used for some very, let's just say, questionable purchases. Something that even local news stations here at home took notice to. There was actually this one guy named Shay Assad who called out these different prices, saying that the Pentagon overpaid for almost every single thing that they bought. Assad was even called the most hated man in the Pentagon because he didn't like how the prices were being gouged. Now, I gotta ask you guys something. Do you guys think that it's wrong to be aware of what the American taxpayer is paying for? With what the federal government has and continues to spend, meaning our money, do you think it gives them the right to just kind of look at the receipt? Assad also said that he was forced out of his job for, well, basically trying to do his job. Now, I want to end things with this thought here. And I know that everyone's not going to agree with me, but here goes. If we took just like 5%, I don't know, 10% off of this budget and relegated it to building or at least repairing some of our existing infrastructure, maybe even cut a little bit to Social Security, SSI, SSDI, veteran benefits, then maybe millions of Americans would actually be benefited. But hey, that's just me thinking out loud. But what are you guys' thoughts on this? Make sure you share them all down below. And before I go, I just want to thank y'all for keeping me company. Thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you on the next one.